The James Harden era in Philadelphia is officially over as the Sixers have traded the disgruntled superstar to the Clippers, where he desired, for a collection of players and picks. As we can see, this happened very suddenly that I believe we all expected this to drag on closer to the deadline, but the deal is done. I'm here to break down in this video the one specific reason that I believe accelerated the entire growth of the process of the trade to eventually occur, and why this is the best thing for the Sixers franchise moving forward. Now, before I do fully dive into it, I do want to make sure you guys are hitting the subscribe button. That at this point in time, 81.2% of you guys watching these videos have not subscribed to the channel just yet. Sixers season is in full swing. We should all be riding high now that the Harden issue is settled, that I want each and every one of you along for the ride this season. I'm going to be here start to finish, and I cannot wait to break everything down. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, ringing the bell, and not missing out on any content here. Now, to dive into the issue at hand today and what I specifically want to talk about, it goes no farther than Tyrese Maxey. I believe his first 3 games of the season is what accelerated the growth and accelerated this whole process of accepting what I believe Morey would consider not the ideal trade package, because it is time to take the training wheels off Tyrese Maxey. I mean, we're talking about the guy who was just crowned the NBA Player of the Week for Week 1, right next to Nikola Jokic of the Nuggets, right next to the 2-time MVP, and just look at those stats across the table. 30.3 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 6.3 assists. Sixers went 2-1 on the season. Now, am I saying this is going to be the Tyrese Maxey we get night in and night out? Absolutely not. There's going to be some ups and downs. There will be a learning curve, 100%. But it is time to embrace that, to allow him to flourish and attempt to reach his potential, because that is the best overall route for both the Sixers and Tyrese Maxey. Now, to talk about this specifically, I don't want to make this an issue as if it's Tyrese Maxey versus James Harden, because that has never been the issue. From start to finish, this has been a James Harden versus Daryl Morey altercation, situation, sticky situation, whatever you want to word it. That has been the issue. By all accounts, the relationship between Tyrese Maxey and James Harden has been very solid. And to point that out specifically, we have Tyrese Maxey being asked at practice today, and he explains that all I can do is appreciate him for that, for helping him gain confidence. He spoke very highly of James Harden. He also went on to say that he texted James Harden to say that he loves and appreciates him, and added that sharing the backcourt helped him gain even more confidence. That is awesome stuff, and I do believe in the long run, it's incredibly beneficial for Tyrese Maxey to have played next to James Harden. There are very few players, and even with all his flaws, that have accomplished the things on a basketball court that James Harden has. We're talking about an MVP of the league, former 6-man of the league, one of the few players that has led the NBA, one of just 2 active players that have led the NBA in both points and assists on separate seasons. That's impressive stuff. And I do think from a playmaking standpoint, that's the biggest takeaway that Maxey can take, as you now see how this guy processes the game a little bit. How does he try and set up teammates? There were plenty of those conversations had, and off the court, they seem to be quite close as well. That there were pictures and videos surfacing of Tyrese Maxey and James Harden, whether it be just shooting around after practice. He even took him out to a nightclub at times, for the good and bad of James Harden. But it is cool that he was able to embrace James Harden, pick his brain, and that really is a positive outlook moving forward. That I think when we look back and reflect on the whole Tyrese Maxey experience, he's going to be very grateful for having these years of playing next to Harden. And Harden did further unlock Maxey as a scorer as well. That Maxey began to learn how to operate off ball, how to create his own shots, the spots that he should be in where Harden can basically pass him open. He benefited from playing next to James Harden, but it is time for him to take that next evolution. Now, this hoop site breakdown, I don't think you should take as gospel, but this rates the best players. This is something worth paying attention to and checking out. Both Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid cracking the top 10 here. And they factor in everything. They have their own little rating system. Again, I wouldn't take this as gospel, but I do think that this should be noteworthy as far as the players that he has outperformed to start. You can see Joel Embiid right at number 2 on that list, the second most impactful player in the NBA thus far, right behind Luka Doncic, who's off to an unreal tear to start this season. And then Tyrese Maxey right there at number 5, behind Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Stephen Curry. According to these ratings, he's been better than Jason Tatum, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Anthony Davis, Paul George, Cam Thomas, and everyone else in the entire league. That is impressive stuff. And for me, the biggest thing that has leaped out to me is his processing of the game, his playmaking ability. He's having better instincts as a passer, better reads. He's making decisions that I have not seen from him in past years. One example that I'm going to pull up here, and the reason that I played this clip specifically, is the way that he plays off the way that he plays off Embiid Embiid rolls to the basket, is not open, which was his number one option. Maxey continues to progress, does not have Patrick Beverley as the three-point shooter, and he finds Oubre as his third or fourth option on the list. So I'm going to pull this up here. Look at him, the pick and roll with Embiid. Number one option to Embiid is covered, and he still finds Oubre with a little slip pass. That is an advanced read of the game. That's him going through, making each decision, going off what the defense is giving him, and ultimately capitalizing for the team. That is the question for Tyrese Maxey moving forward. Can he be a point guard, or is he best as a lightning bolt scorer, a guy that can just purely light up the cotton and put your team in the favor? That is still to be determined, but the Sixers gave themselves a little bit of a grace period to figure that out, that they can now play out until the deadline of seeing what is the best version of Tyrese Maxey. Is it of him running the offense, being a playmaker, being a point guard? Is it best if he's free to just score at will and do his thing? Do they need to add a point guard to this mix? These are all possible options on the table, but by giving yourself up until the deadline to decide that, and with these newfound assets that are brought in through the trade, the Sixers can attack the market in a way in which they otherwise would not. So rather than dragging this out, making the James Harden issue go all the way up until the deadline, the Sixers can now sit back, take a look at the team as constructed, and figure out what is missing. That if they had waited on this Harden deal, that essentially becomes their make or break, their one deal. You essentially kick the can down the line, gave Harden out of here, got that cloud out from hanging over the organization, and now they can realistically look at things and figure out what is the missing ingredient on this team. That as is currently constructed, with these newfound guys coming in, the Nicholas Batum, the Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, you can see very clearly that the picture is it's Joel Embiid, it's Tyrese Maxey, and it's 3-and-D guys. And never mind the fact that none of these guys are going to bleed into next year, that they will all be off the salary cap at the conclusion of the season. The cap space plan to attack free agency is still in place. So what this move did by Daryl Morey was create all this flexibility for ultimately very little risk. That we're able to see what Tyrese Maxey is, take the training wheels off them, and ultimately just jump in and see where things can be. So I'm very thrilled by this overall opportunity. I'm excited to see Maxey dive into things and to look at his stats specifically and started the progression that he has had. Comes into the season in 2020, 2021. This was under Doc Rivers' tenure, so we know that he saw limited opportunity as a young player. Played just 15.3 minutes per game, averaged 8 points, 1.7 rebounds, 2.0 assists. And by the way, the first thing that I'd like to point out is Maxey was still incredibly impactful during this and still had a very impressive playoff performance during this year as a rookie. And that's when I started to notice, like, this kid is really built for it. But flash forward to the next season, the 2021-2022 season, turned 21 during that year. And this season, he averaged 17.5 points per game, shot 42.7% from three, which was the third best rate across the entire NBA. Also saw 4.3 assists and 3.2 rebounds. Now, we know during this situation that this is where the Ben Simmons situation started to fall apart. Tyrese Maxey was thrust into the starting lineup, saw an opportunity, and seized it. That he did perform well above expectations and ultimately helped keep the team afloat during that stretch. But then flash forward to James Harden's arrival, and he shifts back into more of an off-ball role. We see his numbers from last year, averaged 20.3 points per game, assist dipped back down to 3.5 assists because, as I mentioned, that was not his responsibility. But his three-point percentage continued to improve with increased volume. 43.4% from beyond the three-point arc on 6.2 attempts. That is what is incredibly impressive to me. Is this is the same Tyrese Maxey that the knock on him coming out of college was that he was not a good enough shooter. This is the same Tyrese Maxey that statistically shot 29% from three in his lone year at Kentucky. To go from a guy who shot 29% in college to shooting 43.4%, the fifth best rate in the NBA last year, being in the top 5 in three-point percentage in 2 consecutive years, just 1 year removed from being a guy that was an underperforming shooter in college, is absurd stuff. You just don't see that. And what's especially impressive is you're seeing with the volume increasing, the efficiency is not only maintaining, but improving. And to start this year, and we cannot stick with this because it is 3 games in and he will regress. It's impossible to shoot this good. But 3 games in, he's shooting 56% on three-point attempts on 8.3 attempts per game. That is just absurd stuff. And it very much was a statement by Tyrese Maxey to start the year that he is built for this. He is ready for those new opportunities, the new responsibility, and I am ready to watch it all happen. So that is the biggest thing. It is Tyrese Maxey that drove James Harden out of Philadelphia. That maybe this isn't the superstar that you were hoping in a trade return, but you know what? You give him the reins, you give him a chance to, he may very well grow into it. I personally am very much a believer in Tyrese Maxey. That I don't think I've ever seen a player progress at the rate that we're seeing him. And once again, it is that playmaking and that progression, this reading of the game that is incredibly impressive to me. And by the way, he's still a stone cold killer as a scorer. That I have this clip here. Look at the way he splits the defense on this play, attacks the paint, and with an impressive finishing ability. He truly is a 3-level scorer. He's a guy who no one can match this pace, and you pair that with a truly elite shooter, as well as his floater, his mid-range ability. It is so hard to stop this guy. And we're seeing some more advanced movements as far as the two-man game with him and Joel Embiid. These are so exciting things to talk about. So for the time being, let's put the James Harden conversations to rest. Let's see what Tyrese Maxey truly can develop into as a player. Let's see what these new pieces look like in the Nick Nurse system how all this fits together. And let's have some real expectations about this Sixers team. I think these next handful of games will be telling as far as what this team can be. We're going to begin to have an opportunity to kind of have a look at what this team truly is and how they fit the identity of Nick Nurse. The things are starting to gel. It's nice to finally put things to bed, and the future of the franchise is in terrific hands in Tyrese Maxey. Thank you guys for tuning into this video. I am very excited to be able to stop talking about the James Harden situation as a whole, that we can now focus on basketball. I'm sure these Sixers feel the exact same way, so I cannot wait to see what the rest of the season has in store. Once again, make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button, ringing the bell, so you're not missing out on any content right here on Sixers Digest. My name is Sean Barnard, and I'll be with you start to finish this season. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will talk with you next time. Peace.